There may not be many people in South Virginia, but per capita, it is an area rich in hard-working, supportive families. Such was the setting for Timothy Peters, a racer driven by real-life tragedy and triumph.
He's an old soul because he grew up around adults and he was more mature for his age. His daddy made him work because he wanted him to learn.
Probably the highest baseball I got was probably coach pitch baseball, and my dad was a coach. Not only were we racing, but he was out at Goodyear 12-hour days, and he's like, man, you just have to pick one. So I chose the most expensive route.
Timothy's father, Tony, spent a career with Goodyear, and from a go-kart track fashioned behind the plant, a father fashioned a shared dream with his son, a training ground for manhood.
Well, first, he kind of just give me a little bit of pointers, not to be too quick with the steering wheel, you know, you got to be really still. He says, because you move your head around, he says your go-kart's moving with your head. There's rubber still in the turns, and I was able to get some up. I can't hardly believe that. One of the things that's kind of cool that sticks out in my mind is after the go-kart deal, we got a legend car, and we were coming out here every day. He stood on the racetrack. He stopped me. He said, I'm gonna stand right here because you're cutting the corner off. And he says, I dare you to hit me. So he made me run around him. And it sounds kind of crazy, but it helped me.
Becoming the dominant racer on their home track, Timothy was the small driver with a big heart and boundless enthusiasm for racing with his dad.
My dad and I finally got the legend car and came down here and practiced, but I was 14 years old.
He actually was so small, and I looked at his father and I said, you know, this kid is not big enough to drive a race car. So we're going to have a letter stating that you're releasing us from everything before he can get out here on the racetrack.
The letter also released a talent that steered Timothy towards national stock car racing. Timothy and his father had made it. But suddenly, in 2001, Timothy lost his father.
You don't understand why things happen, but things happen for a reason, and he was called home that day. I thought about quitting, and my mom at the time, she made a couple of comments.
Yeah, very emotional, very emotional. You know, he could have quit and give it up, but his daddy wouldn't have wanted him to do that.
Timothy maintained his hope for a future in racing, though the light of stardom at Richard Childress Racing quickly dimmed for the emerging driver.
Timothy Peters making his second start of the year, and Peters walks in 19th quickest overall.
Pretty good opportunity with another race team, and was making a nice amount of money. And Sarah and I got married that year.
We were on top of the world. We were newlyweds. He had a great job, and then the racing thing kind of fell apart for him a couple months later, and that was hard.
I probably went against Sarah's will. I pretty much jeopardized everything you see here to go to Martinsville in 2008 for the spring race on our own. And come home to have a private eye in the driveway, and a lady called and said, from the bank says I can't draft the money out of your account to pay your house payment.
You know, I'll never forget the day when he came home and the power was cut off. We couldn't afford the bill. It's tough. I mean, we couldn't afford to go to the grocery store. You know, when you love someone, you support them. You know, this has been his dream since he was a little kid, and I didn't want to be the one to stop him from continuing this dream he's always had.
Tony Peters intended his two prized Corvettes to be passed down to Timothy, but Timothy's real inheritance was a dream to go racing. By selling the cars to a local collector, the dream could continue.
You know, I remember my mom always saying that it would pay off for Timothy down the road, but it's cool to actually be able to touch and feel this car and know the story behind it.
The profit from the Corvettes allowed Timothy and his friend's father, Steve Stallings, to start a team from their home shop.
We had our own team here at the house, and we worked some very long hours. Timothy, a guy by the name of Chad Kendrick, put in a lot of hours out here, a lot of sweat.
There was many nights that we would start work that day at 7, and we might not get done until 1 in the morning. I really have marks up under my eye. We weren't going to take any shortcuts. We weren't going to show up to the track and say, well, we just, you know, it's just two of us and make excuses. There were no excuses.
and we made 16 races and done very well at it. We were highest as 4th in the points, but the funding wasn't there. You have to have money with you. It's not always just talent anymore.
The memory of his father still rides with Timothy, whose dedication was recognized by Red Horse Racing. Fully funded, the dream is now fully realized.
I was at my brother's house that day, and he called me and said, I got a phone call today, and it was from Tom DeLoach, the owner of Red Horse Racing, and, you know, he wants me to come drive for him. I mean, it was one of the best days of our lives because it's like all the sacrifice and everything that he went through to make this dream happen is finally coming together.
Timothy has now made his mark on victory lane, but a collection of trophies will never define the victory Timothy feels. The victory of sustaining the dream shared with his father, and the dream he will soon share with his own son.
You'll risk everything to race like a king, you know what I mean? And live broke. Maybe that's kind of my motto when it came to trying to get back on top.